Hi there, this is the Olive Sparrow with a very precariously balanced phone here attached to me. I wanted to show you how I sew wefts. So over here, I have a pile of locks that are all lined up. This is the tip of the locks, which is kind of easy to see because they're lighter colored, and these are the ends. What I do is I take a few locks over to my machine. Now, I have a special foot that I like, and it is a clear foot that doesn't have a gap in the front. I have a double needle that I have threaded with 2 black threads because I'm sewing a black weft, and I have 1 thread coming from the bottom, obviously the bobbin. My settings are, my zigzag is a really tiny zigzag, and it's almost set to a satin stitch setting. How I start with the locks is I leave probably about a half an inch gap on the top, and I just put a lock under the foot and I start sewing very tiny stitches. As that lock is sewn down, I straighten out the edges and I sort of force the other locks kind of under the foot, sew them, and I take another few locks from my pile, nicely arranged before, which really makes a huge difference. Now, when I line them up, I'm actually kind of happy if the fibers kind of go over top of each other, so that I can, so that maybe the hairs already kind of intermingle a bit, because that's going to make it easier to hold the locks in the wefted seam. Okay, let's do a few more here. And again, I just want to really clearly see where the upper end of my locks are. And that's the end where the lock was actually sheared off the sheep. Now, as you weft, you will always have 1 or 2 locks that, no matter how well you weft, sorry, in here I'm kind of fuzzing out the edges because I don't want it to be too lumpy. Anyway, you're almost guaranteed that a couple of the locks will fall out as you're manipulating your wig once it's on your doll, because you just, as much as you pay attention, you can't really ever get them 100%. So anyway, so this is just a sample. So what I do, so this is the first step. I sew down once, then I take it off, and what I do is I put my thread back in my machine. Oops, sorry for the jigglies here. And what I do is I start sewing. Sorry, there we go. Back in business. Let me just get that. Okay, there we go. I start sewing on the thread in my zigzag. Now, as I'm coming to the locks, I'm actually switching. Oh, and I didn't catch the thread here. Never mind, that's okay. I put my locks facing to the right. And as I'm coming to the needle, I take each lock and I move it facing left. Now, what I have here is I basically have a tiny fold in the fiber. And of course, my machine right now is acting up, which it has never done before. There we go. So, start sewing. And I'm pulling it through a bit from the back. So I fold the next ones over. And again, sew very tight little stitches over the lock. Fold the next one. And sometimes with my finger, I have to just kind of poke the edge underneath. Sometimes I also get little locks stuck over the foot and I just free them up. And again here, if I pull this all the way straight, I'm sometimes able to just fold a whole bunch of them over. If you have locks stuck on your foot, you really want to free them up, because otherwise what happens is that it starts pulling on everything. Sometimes you even need to give it a little snip, which is not ideal because it means you are actually cutting some of the locks. Okay, so I'm sewing and I'm just going to finish this line here. Okay, now that I've sewn this once, take it off, and then what I do is I sew down again on the same way, but I've turned it around. So here I already have my locks facing left. And if you look really close, let me see if I can focus in on this. It's not behaving. Anyway, there's the little things here are actually sticking on top now. So I'm basically sewing from the other side. Let's see here. So I'm just going to go back down, really tiny stitches. I'm really not rushing this. So although I'm pulling a little bit, I'm just helping guide it more than anything. And as you can see, my needles are really just right over the edge. If you sew too far down, what happens is when you crochet your weft, is that you have a huge, like, kind of lumpy thing that you have to go around with your crochet thread. So I like to keep them really close together, and the double needle really does a special linking of the stitches. Not my original idea. I had seen it from somebody that was wefting human hair. Okay, and then I check if most locks will be fine, but just to make sure, I usually go over it one more time, and again I just flip it and do it from the other side. So here we go, one more time. Okay, and I think you get the idea here. Let me see. So you have that kind of a seam. And here's your weft. Thank you very much for watching, and the Olive Sparrow says bye-bye.